Welcome to the Active Living Facilitator course. This course is designed for walking programs, those indoor and outdoor, as well as a small selection of strength and stretching exercises that can accommodate or accompany these walking programs. The Manitoba Fitness Council is the local organization that represents the National Fitness Leaders Alliance, or NFLA. The NFLA and MFC are also members of IREPS, which is the International College of Exercise Register. MFC offers nationally recognized training standards to potential fitness leaders in Manitoba. MFC has been endorsed by the province of Manitoba to provide approved fitness leadership certification. The Manitoba Fitness Council is a not-for-profit organization that has been certifying fitness leaders since 1986 and currently has over 1,000 members in the province. The Manitoba Fitness Council provides its members with ongoing educational opportunities through workshops, webinars like this one, conferences, and newsletters. The MFC is an organization that strives for excellence both in education and in training, and provide leaders with good knowledge as they head back to their Manitoba communities. We are physical fitness ambassadors, and we lead our communities towards better health and well-being. There are many courses within the MFC. Exercise theory is the foundation course, and after completing exercise theory through written exam, you move on to take one of the specialty courses, which could include step and choreography, aqua fitness, yoga fitness, personal trainer, resistance trainer, sports conditioning, indoor cycling, pre and postnatal fitness, and active older adult. All of our courses are listed on our website with dates upcoming. in each course is approximately 18 to 24 hours. If you have any further questions about our courses, please do not hesitate to contact the office at info@manitobafitnesscouncil.ca. And beyond completing a course, its written exam, and practical evaluation to become certified, you must maintain first aid and CPR as well as your membership annually to maintain your membership. The benefit, one of the major benefits of our organization is upon certification, you do get group liability insurance, which protects you as a group instructor. Currently, our ELF program is not under the umbrella of a certified fitness leader. If you are interested in leading groups more regularly or have a specific group that you'd like to work with, please again contact the office to see which program might be the most appropriate. This webinar will teach you how to lead a walking program, how to find people to attend your program, how to address barriers in your community, how to do some basic strength exercises, and how to teach those basic strength exercises. The Manitoba Fitness Council is a leader in fitness certification in the province of Manitoba. All of our programs begin by completing exercise theory. When this course is completed, an exam is written, a successful pass of 80%. Participant can then move on to take any of our specialty courses that can include choreography and step, group cycle, sports conditioning, resistance training, aquatic fitness, personal training, yoga fitness, or active older adult, pre and postnatal fitness, as well as children fitness, and our latest one, Pilates. The ELF program, or Active Living Facilitator, as you're taking now, is slightly different than these courses because it does not require the exercise theory course to be completed first. This course instead is to provide leaders the opportunity to lead walking groups and basic stretching and strengthening exercises that could go along with these walking programs. The ELF is then a scope of practice for which they can work with apparently healthy populations according to the PARQ+, but they are not a certified exercise professional. They are not able to claim that they can teach any of these other specialty courses until they have completed these certifications. The PARQ+ is a self-administered questionnaire. It is designed to assess your readiness to participate in a more physically active or engage in a fitness class. It's important that you have all of your participants complete a PARQ before attending a walking program that you are leading. It has a 3-stage system. Upon answering the 7 health questions, if a participant answers no to all 7 questions, they are deemed apparently healthy and are able to attend your program. If they answer 1 or 2 questions with a yes, and then these questions are followed up with subsequent questions in the package that are answered with a no, meaning that they do have a health condition, but that it is completely under control and their doctor has advised that it is safe to exercise. They may also join your program. If they answer yes to one of the initial 7 health questions, and then answer yes to the follow-up questions in the booklet, then they are seen as red lighted and would need to see a doctor to get medical clearance before attending your program. This is important to ensure that you are teaching apparently healthy populations in your program. This PARQ can also be done online with what is known as called an ePARMEDX. You can just put that into Google and you'll find the website for the site. The person puts in their name, answers the 7 questions electronically. It will populate the follow-up questions if need be, and will complete it with a final page advising the client if they need to seek doctor or medical clearance, or if they are cleared for exercise. What is an active living facilitator? Well, they're a person who provides motivation, education, and safe active living programs based on current physical activity guidelines. They're going to encourage movement activities in a variety of meaningful ways. They're going to create awareness of other support services, and they're going to promote and facilitate active living opportunities for all. In general, this program is designed for those who want to lead a walking group or basic stretches and strengthening, possibly at their workplace. They are a leader within their community. They are not a certified fitness professional, but they are ones who can promote, advocate, and support active living choices within their communities. What are the benefits of regular physical activity? Those who exercise have seemed to have a reduced risk of heart attacks, manage their weight better, have lower blood cholesterol levels, have lower risk of type 2 diabetes, reduced risk of some cancers, including prostate and breast cancers, have lower blood pressure, have stronger bones, muscles, and joints. They have lower risks of falls, decreased risk of developing osteoporosis. They recover better from periods of hospitalization or during times of bed rest. Those who exercise have more energy, better mood, are able to sleep better and feel more relaxed. Exercise blocks negative thoughts. Those who exercise have greater opportunity for social interactions, increased fitness levels, improved sleep patterns, and have seen to change the chemical levels of serotonin, endorphins, and stress hormones in the brain. There are 3 components of a good, well-rounded physical activity program. And these components are endurance or cardiovascular component, a strength or resistance training component, and a flexibility component or stretching. Over the next few slides, we'll go into each of these in a bit more detail. There are many barriers to physical activity. The number one reason is a lack of time. This attached YouTube video pokes fun at this by pointing out that we actually have 23.5 hours where we don't need to be active, and we only require 30 minutes per day of physical activity. The other barriers to physical activity are social influence, being family, friends, coworkers who may not support your activity. It could be that you're a busy parent and your husband or partner doesn't feel like you going to the gym is important. Number 3 is normally lack of energy, which a lot of us have. Our lives are busy, our families and our jobs suck up our time and energy, leaving nothing left for us to use to go to a gym. Barrier number 4 is normally lack of willpower, not being able to self-motivate ourselves to do it. Number 5 is fear of injury. That can include worrying about your job and then risking injury prevents it. Number 6 is lack of skill. Some people avoid physical activities because they don't feel that they have enough skill to participate. And then number 7 is lack of resources, maybe not having a fitness facility nearby, not having classes they could attend, or a certified instructor locally. These are all barriers. As we know, there are many benefits to physical activity, but it's also important to note the cost of physical inactivity. It has been scientifically proven that physical inactivity is one of 4 major contributors to non-communicable diseases. The other 3 are smoking, poor diet, and excessive alcohol. The World Health Organization finds that inactivity is the 4th leading cause of mortality, citing, quote, the high risk of inactivity are similar to tobacco use, unquote. And they believe that between 1.5 and 3% of total healthcare costs are due to inactivity. Despite knowing this, there are many barriers to physical activity. Time, inconvenience, lack of motivation, do not enjoy exercise, lack of confidence in their ability to be active, fear of being injured, lack of encouragement from family or friends, or lack of built infrastructure, having a place where they feel safe to be active, are all barriers to physical inactivity. This little video points out that we ask people to be active 30 minutes per day, meaning that they have 23.5 hours left to do with whatever they need to get done in the day. So trying to disprove the first myth or barrier to physical activity, which is time. Endurance activities are activities that help the heart, lungs, and circulatory system. Currently, in Canada, it's recommended that people could do 150 minutes of cardiovascular exercise per week. This can be broken down into bouts of 10 minutes, and it works out well at 30 minutes per day for a minimum of 5 days per week, but more is better. The major training system used in cardio could be continuous or steady state, and this is what a walking program would have. Alternatively, you might do interval training, which is timed or sporadic intervals using different cardio speeds or modalities. It could be a walk run is an example of interval training. You might also do interval training where it is cardiorespiratory, like walking, interspersed with strength training exercises, sometimes known as a circuit training class. In a continuous or steady state training, the movement techniques are used to produce long, continuous endurance workout with few intensity variations. So that would be going out and leading your walk at a pace. Generally, during steady state cardiorespiratory exercise, the overall physiological effect is steady. Participants are encouraged to monitor their exercise intensity without major fluctuations. Alternatively, in interval training, the intensity levels fluctuate between high, low, and moderate intensity. The instructor should provide instructions on how hard to work during points of high intensity, maybe using heart rate or a talk test, which we'll discuss later in this slideshow. There are numerous benefits of resistance training. One is ease to perform activities of daily living, like picking up groceries or climbing stairs. Those who do resistance training have increased lean body mass, so increased muscle and decreased fat mass. They have improved metabolism. Their muscles, tendons, and ligaments are stronger. There is increase in bone density, reducing the risk of osteoporosis. Those who resistance train have decreased risk of injury, a decreased risk of low back pain, an enhanced feeling of well-being and self-confidence. The Canadian guidelines suggest resistance training activities 2 times per week for an adult. And the ACSM goes on further to suggest 10 to 15 repetitions, 1 set covering an exercise for each major joint or muscle group in the body. It's important that we provide rest between the days of resistance training, so to perform every other, and to maintain normal breathing pattern when doing resistance training work. There are many benefits to flexibility training. These include enhanced performance of activities of daily living, like bending over to tie your shoe, decreased risk of low back pain, increase in motor performance, decreased risk of injury, reduced muscle tension, increased states of relaxation, increased ranges of motion through all joints, decreased stress and tension, increased mind-body connection, and improved posture. Currently in Canada, the guidelines for flexibility is to do stretching every day. It is an integral part of every exercise session, as it can reduce the risk of injury and improve muscle imbalances. It's important to have static stretches for all major joints that are commonly tight, such as hip flexors, hamstrings, calves, the erector spine, the pectoralis major or minor, your anterior delts, and your upper traps or back of your neck. It's important for you as a leader to demonstrate proper alignment and technique when teaching stretches, and to observe your participants form, offer modifications, regressions, or progressions, or even possibly alternative stretches. It's important when leading the stretching section that you provide alignment cues to emphasize relaxation or possibly visualization. Now, these stretches can happen at the end of your session or your class, but it may be beneficial to include some dynamic stretches at the beginning of your program. Now, dynamic stretches are ones that get the body moving through its range of motion. This can involve shoulder circles, walking with high knees, or drawing the heels up towards your bottom as you're doing those first few strides. Dynamic stretches increase the blood flow, are part of a warm-up, getting the body, the mind ready for the activity to occur, whereas static stretches are held for approximately 30 seconds to 60 seconds. And there are deeper, longer holds to induce relaxation and to stretch out any soreness in the muscles, joints, or tendons after the exercise. Why practice flexibility activities? Developing flexibility is an important goal for any training program. Achieving optimal flexibility helps eliminate awkward and inefficient movements by allowing your joints to move freely through a full, normal range of motion. It may also provide increased resistance to muscle injury. Improving flexibility is a fundamental element of any training program because range of motion may enhance the ability to perform various movements, especially those that require high levels of flexibility. Think about serving a tennis ball, lifting up and extending the shoulder, or maybe picking up your groceries off the floor. Flexibility training is also important for injury prevention. Among the most common problems we see with poor flexibility is lower back pain, potentially resulting from tighter quadriceps, hip flexors, or back muscles. A lack of flexibility may also increase the incidence of muscle tears because the muscles are so tight on one or both sides of a joint. The acceptable rule for the role of flexibility in injury prevention is to create normal range of motion, common for most individuals at each joint, and this will reduce. There are numerous benefits to balance functional training. The main reason is it helps to reduce falls, reduces the risk of injury, improves gait, improves coordination and agility, improves your reaction time and ability to move quickly. It strengthens your core muscles, improves your posture, and improves, again, the ability to perform activities of a daily living. In a walking program, we can include balance exercises during the warm-up or the cool down, during points of stretching, possibly asking them to hold one leg or to try doing the stretch with their eyes closed and testing their balance. It may also be to include some movements throughout the strength training component that may challenge their balance. So possibly a calf raise off the edge of a curb or a lunging position, which could be challenging for their balance. All of this, including with a walking program, can help reduce falls, which is seen as a major problem for older adults in Canada. And it is suggested that they do balance activities a few times per week. Some safety tips in regards to stretching is to stretch after the endurance or strength training activities, to use slow, smooth movements, no bouncing or jerking, and hold the gentle continuous motion or stretch between 10 to 15 seconds, and to breathe normally and naturally during the stretch. You want to feel some tension, but pain is an indicator that you're stretching too far. Now, stretching can take place in many different times during the class. It can happen in the warm-up, as I mentioned earlier, as part of dynamic stretching, increasing the blood flow and taking the body through ranges of motion. It can happen immediately after the cardiovascular or after strength training exercises, which stretching the muscle immediately after strengthening it generally feels good and rebalances any muscle imbalances. Or stretching can take place at the end of the class as part of your cool down. Stretches here may be held for longer, help to address any stress or mental tension, as well as release body's physical tension from that class, from that week, from their general lifestyle. The FIT principle is an exercise theory principle in regards to exercise. It stands for frequency, intensity, time, and type. The frequency is how often to do the exercise. Intensity is how hard to do the exercise. Time is the duration of the exercise, and type is the modality. We start backwards. The modality could be walking, could be yoga, could be spinning, could be aerobics. Those are all different types. Now, time depends on the first two, the frequency and the intensity. If you are sprinting, the time might only be 30 seconds. If the intensity is lower, is a jog, maybe the time would be 3 minutes. If the intensity was a walk, maybe the time is 20 minutes. And then, of course, frequency. When we're looking at cardiovascular exercise, we're wanting to do that 150 minutes per week. If it is a strength training, the frequency should be 2 to 3 days per week. And if the modality is stretching, then the frequency would want to be 7 days per week. When we're thinking about the intensity of a workout and how to evaluate our class, we can use something known as the talk test. It is a subjective method for gauging exercise intensity and can be used with heart rate or the RPE scale. When participants exercise, their breathing should be rhythmic and comfortable. Particularly for new clients, talking while exercising can indicate whether they are achieving the appropriate intensity. As the intensity increases, breathing rate will become faster and shallower. If a participant needs to gasp for breath between words when conversing, then the exercise intensity is too high and should be reduced. Alternative to the talk test could be the RPE scale. It is a scale that runs from 0 to 10 and is known as the rate of perceived exertion. You can simply ask your students on a scale of 1 to 10 how they are feeling. If they're down from 0 to 3, then they're in the green light. They could probably go harder. They're able to sing, breathe comfortably. If they're working between a 4 and a 7, we'd call that an amber light or caution. The breathing is moderate to heavy. They're still able to talk. Their muscles feel like they're working at a moderate level and they're feeling some challenge. If, however, the client states that they feel like they're working between an 8 and a 10, maybe possibly feeling out of breath, exhaustion, extremely hot, or muscles are straining, then they're probably working at an intensity that is too high and to reduce. Now, RPE and talk test sync with heart rate and are best options for new or beginning clients as they're able to sense changes in their breath rate, in their muscle sensations, and in the temperature of their body. So an RPE scale or a talk test are great for beginners. Heart rate can be the most accurate way to determine a workout's intensity, but is one of the most challenging methods to do during an exercise class. Many instructors indicate that stopping to take a pulse check stops the flow of a class. It can also be difficult for new students to find and count the beats accurately. It is best to take a pulse check at either the radial artery on the wrist or the carotid artery in the neck. After finding the pulse, always begin a count with 0 and count the number of beats successively for 10 seconds. You can multiply that number by 6 to calculate your beats per minute or BPM. Alternatively, you can have a chart such as the one in this slide for clients to reference and see if they're working within their training zone. Generally, a new exerciser wants to work between 60 and 80% of their maximum heart rate. This can be calculated by taking 220 minus their age and then multiplying that maximum heart rate number by either 60 and or 80%. This will give them their useful range. This may be a useful activity before one of your walking group sessions, as it is interesting for clients to learn what a safe and appropriate heart rate intensity would be for their age, and something that they can reference on future walks. Time is one of the T's in the FIT principle. Time refers to how long you're being active. You can track your walks by the number of minutes out. You could also break down your walk into different intensity levels and the time associated. For example, how long did you walk for the warm-up? How many minutes did you walk with your heart rate at a moderate level? Maybe how many minutes did you increase to a jog or a higher intensity level? And then again, how many minutes at a moderate pace and how many minutes for the cool down? Time is a great way to track overall activity level and teach a participant how intensity and time are related. So if they're moving towards interval-based exercise, a possible walk, jog, then time is critical. Maybe they start with a 30-second jog followed by 2 minutes of walking, and then over time progress because of increased health benefit to 1 minute of jogging followed by 1 minute of walking. Keeping a journal and referencing time is a great motivator for physical activity. Type is the final T in the FIT principle. Type is any modality that does not impose excessive orthopedic stress. Walking, water walking, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, cycling could all be seen as forms of locomotive modality under type. All of these will increase heart rate, increase breathing rate, and improve cardiovascular function. Type is the final T in the FIT principle. It refers to the what they are doing to increase their physical fitness. And it's important here that the clients select activities that they most enjoy. It could be walking, hiking, urban poling, snowshoeing, running, cross-country skiing, skating, any activity that increases their heart rate, breathing rate, and improves their cardiovascular function. Goal setting is the process of identifying something that you want to accomplish and establishing measurable goals and timeframes. You may use the FIT principle we just reviewed to help establish your goals. This could mean setting a frequency or number of times per week that you want to be active, such as I will be active 4 days this week. It could be an intensity goal to work within maybe your target heart rate. So taking time to figure out your heart rate max and then what 60 to 80% of that is, and then tracking it during each of your activities that week. It could also be a time goal, possibly to meet the Canadian guidelines of 150 minutes of physical activity per week, and tracking this maybe on a chart or in a diary to ensure that you are keeping your goals. In 1998, the Canadian Society for Exercise Physiology created the Physical Activity Guidelines for adults. A year later, they developed guidelines for older adults. And by 2002, there were guidelines for different age of children. These guidelines were developed with Health Canada as well as a National Advisory Committee. They have been accepted in every province as well as through 65 national programs, such as the National Fitness Leaders Association and subsequently the Manitoba Fitness Council. These guidelines were created to improve the health of Canadians by reducing sedentary time and activities and improving quality of life. The guidelines are seen as a consistent, reliable, easy to understand, and accessible guide that is attainable for most Canadians. If you could please pull out the orange guideline, that is the guideline for adults. You'll see at the top of the page, it has adults 18 to 64. Immediately below this are the critical guidelines. Number one is to have 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous intensity aerobic physical activity per week in bouts of 10 minutes or more. So if we think back to a moment ago when we spoke about the FIT principle, it is all there in that one statement. You have your frequency, your intensity, your time, and your possible type of activity in that guideline. Below it, it says it is also beneficial to add muscle and bone strengthening activities using major muscle groups at least 2 times a week. And then finally, more physical activity provides greater health benefits. So to point out that the 2 guidelines above are the minimum, that research has shown that doing more than 150 minutes of physical activity or doing more than 2 days a week of strength training will have additional benefits. Below the guidelines, on the front of the sheet, it will list some of the benefits that these guidelines would produce. So on the right-hand side, you reduce your chance of premature death, heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure, certain types of cancer, type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, overweight or obesity, and you can improve your fitness, strength, and of course, mental health. Please find your green activity guideline. This one is for the older adult, and it should say at the top of the page, 65 years and older. Before I continue, I should point out that you can download these guides directly from the CSEP website. You can also order packages of these, again, through CSEP, Canadian Society for Exercise Physiology, as well as through Participation. The guidelines for 65 years and older. First, to achieve health benefits and improve functional abilities for adults age 65 and older should accumulate at least 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous intensity aerobic physical activity per week in bouts of 10 minutes or more. So again, the guideline has not changed from adult. It is the same number of minutes, but again, we know from earlier when we were talking about intensity that the intensity for an older adult will be lower than that of an adult, simply by taking the 220 minus their age and multiplying that by 60 or the maximum 80% of that heart rate range. And the important factor maybe for active older adults is the bouts of 10 minutes, right? If they're unable to do a 45 or 60-minute walking session, bouts of getting up and walking for 10 minutes has been seen to improve their quality of life. Number 2, it is also beneficial to add muscle and bone strengthening activities using major muscle groups at least 2 days per week. Again, this is the same as the adult. However, you may be choosing more functional exercises, possibly more body weight exercises, depending on the age of the client and their current activity level. Notice here there's a change on the sheet. The next one down says those with poor mobility should perform physical activities to enhance balance and prevent falls. We know from Canadian research that falls primarily happen in those over 65 years, and that these falls can be prevented with functional, balance, or proprioceptive type exercises. Now you can include this in a walking program simply by picking to balance on one foot while maybe doing an arm stretch at the end of the class, or having them challenge by closing their eyes with 2 feet on the floor and simply doing a gentle shoulder roll, but making clients aware of their balance and doing activities in each class to improve it. And then finally, the same as the adult, it says more physical activity provides greater health benefit. If you have a very active older adult over the age of 65, there's no need to do bouts of 10 minutes. They can work to improving their physical activity to a point of improved functioning. Again, below the guidelines, there is some different activity choices as well as the benefits that would happen if they became active. Please find your blue guideline. At the top, it should say for youth 12 to 17 years. Now, this guideline is much different than the adult and the older adult guidelines. Look right at the top. It says for health benefits, youth age 12 to 17 should accumulate at least 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous intensity physical activity, and that this should include vigorous activity at least 3 times per week. Now notice that big change. The 150 minutes is not on this guideline. Instead, it recommends 60 minutes per day. Also, it notices that it should be vigorous activity at least 3 times per week. And that would mean getting the child's heart rate up to around that 80% mark, where they're having a challenge with breathing, increased heart rate, increased body temperature. Below this, it notes that they should be doing strength, bone, and muscle strengthening 3 times per week. And again, this is an increase to the adult. Please find the purple guideline. At the top, it should say for children 5 to 11 years. This guideline is very similar to the 12 to 17 in that it states that children 5 to 11 years should accumulate at least 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous intensity physical activity daily, and that this should include vigorous activities at least 3 times per week. So this again is the same. It also suggests activities to strengthen muscles and bones at least 3 times per week. So again, this is very similar to the previous youth guidelines. That was 12 to 17. But we know again here that the change is dependent on their age. So children ages 5 maybe into more game or free play activity, whereas the older teenage years may be more suitable for organized sport or activities. Please find your teal guideline. At the top, it'll say for the early years, 0 to 4 years. Now this one is different than the previous. Please note that it says for infants ages less than 1 year, they should be doing physical activity several times per day through interactive floor-based play. Then for toddlers ages 1 to 2 years and preschoolers 3 to 4 years, they should accumulate at least 180 minutes of physical activity at any intensity throughout the day. So this is very different than the adult guideline of 150 minutes per week. This is 180 minutes per day. It's important to look at a variety of activities in different environments and teach them different motor skills and movement skills, and then progress towards that 60 minutes of energetic play by the age of 5. Below the guidelines on this one, it gives great activities depending on the age of the child, from tummy time as an infant to playing, running, or dancing, depending on their age. Sedentary behavior are characterized by little physical movement and low energy expenditure. It includes sitting for long periods of time, using computers, playing passive video games, motorized transportation, and watching television. Scientific evidence has shown that a direct connection between increasing sedentary time and decreased fitness, poor self-esteem, weak academic performance, obesity, and increased aggression. In 2011, the Sedentary Behavior Guidelines were created, and this is because Canadian children and youth were spending 62% of their waking hours in sedentary pursuits. That means 6 to 8 hours a day of screen time for an average Canadian child, according to Dr. Mark Tremblay. These guidelines have been set forward to go with the physical activity guidelines to encourage healthier behaviors. The Canadian Sedentary Behavior Guidelines state to limit recreational screen time to no more than 2 hours. It also looks to increase sleep, sweat, and step are the 4 other S's of this guideline. The sweat is the physical activity guideline that we've seen previously. The step is to increase locomotive travel throughout the day, increasing the number of steps they take. And sleep is to increase quality and duration of sleep between 9 and 11 hours if they're under the age of 11, and if they're 12 to 17, to have sleep between 8 and 10 hours. The trans-theoretical model of behavior change is an integrative theory that assesses an individual's readiness to act on a new, healthier behavior and provides strategies or processes of change to guide the individual. We begin with pre-contemplation, or what's considered not ready. People are not intending to take action in the foreseeable future and can be unaware that their behavior is problematic. In the contemplative stage, or the getting ready stage, people are at the beginnings of recognizing that their behavior is a problem and start to look for the pros and cons to continue their actions. When they move towards preparation, or the ready stage, people are intending to take action in the immediate future and may begin taking small steps towards that behavior change. After this is action. People made specific overt modifications in modifying their problem behavior or in acquiring a new healthy behavior. This is followed by maintenance, and people sustain this action for at least 6 months and are working to prevent any relapse are considered in this phase. And the final stage is termination. Individuals have zero temptations and they're sure they will not return to their old unhealthy behavior. Pre-contemplation is the first stage in stages of change. This group may not even realize that their behavior is problematic, and that could be seen for those who have high sedentary lifestyles and do not realize that there is any benefit to physical activity. So we need to market and promote the benefits of an active lifestyle and exercise, as well as the problems or risks of inactivity. Have opportunity for self-learning in a non-threatening environment, and use role models and success stories, testimonials. So when we're thinking about developing a walking program, we know that this is of great importance to those moving from a sedentary lifestyle. So it's important that we figure out how to market to this group in order to let them know the benefits to change their behavior. During the contemplative stage, the individual might realize the risks of declining health and or fitness. They start to believe that they can do it, and they might need help taking those first steps, becoming more active, because the barriers they seek are great. So important at this stage, as the person promoting a walking group, would be to educate again about the benefits of an active lifestyle and about improved physical activity. It might be to have role models speak out, share their stories and their challenges. The better able they are to relate to the people who are in this stage. Give examples of taking the first steps, simply maybe by choosing the activity, the group, the date, and look for solutions to their barriers. During preparation, there needs to be a commitment built. This could be a perfect opportunity to set some SMART goals to make sure that the environment supports the activity, that the activity is being reinforced, and non-active behaviors are being reinforced as well. It might help that they have a set plan, date, and time to be active or to meet a group or to schedule it as part of their regular routine. And possibly at this stage to have a reward system for being active. So if they've set a goal of weight loss, possibly it is to buy a new pair of jeans upon that weight loss goal being achieved. Many people spend quite some time in preparation, getting ready to be active, but not quite there yet. Action is when the new behavior has taken place. They have started to become active. Make sure that the environment continues to support this activity. For this, it could mean they're very active in your walking group during the summer and fall months when the weather is well. But as soon as it becomes cold, you may see a drop in your attendance as people decide that they cannot continue this walking program. So it's important to think of solutions to these barriers, keeping it exciting and engaging to the members, because again, if they become bored, it might start to feel like work. And when physical activity feels like work, there's a chance that they will stop doing it. This can be prevented with tracking, showing that they're still creating progress, possibly setting future goals again once the first ones have been achieved, to involve family and friends, social networks, to help continue this behavior into the maintenance phase, which is greater than 6 months of the continued health behavior. And remembering that termination is when the barriers no longer feel like barriers and the new behavior is taken on. There are many reasons to walk, and there are many people who walk for pleasure, to stay in shape, manage their weight. Families explore the outdoors by walking together. Some people use walking as therapy for an injured muscle or for troubled feelings. People walk to explore, to take a break, to find adventure. Some walk for charitable organizations to raise awareness. There are hundreds of events like these across Canada every year. Some easier ways to include walking in your daily life is to walk from home to school or home to work. It may help to walk to run some errands, take the stairs instead of the elevator, use your lunch break to walk around the block, to walk a dog or your neighbor's dog, or to walk to a different floor simply to use the photocopier. The benefits of walking are exponential. Walking refreshes the mind, reduces fatigue, and increases energy. More than half of the body's muscles are designed for walking, so it's a naturally injury-free activity. Walking provides an enjoyable time sharing and socializing with friends and family, and a regular brisk walk can reduce blood fat and blood pressure, as well as improve digestion and elimination. Walking strengthens bones and prevents osteoporosis. It relieves stress and tension. And regular walking will help maintain a healthy body weight, a positive body image, and improve heart and lung efficiency. If you've decided to start walking, there's some planning tips that you might want to consider. Start by walking a little every day, and then add variety to these routes. Maybe it is to stop and get some groceries, or doing an extra loop around the block before picking the kids up from school. Walking with others is social and is more safe. It also keeps you accountable. So if you have a date to meet a friend every day at 4 o'clock for a walk, you're more likely to stick to it. It's important that you walk facing traffic, wear extra grips on your shoes, both when it is the summertime as well as possible spikes on your shoes during the winter. It's important to not wear headphones so that you can hear traffic, cars, and animals. Wear appropriate sunscreen or bug repellent when appropriate, and to dress in layers depending on the season. How many steps do you take in a day? Most people would have difficulty answering that question. The average sedentary North American accumulates between 3,500 and 5,000 steps in the course of a day. Dr. Tudor Locke, a researcher from Arizona State University, suggests that there is an improvement in health simply by adding 2,000 to 3,000 more steps in their day. It is recommended in Canada that we get approximately 10,000 steps per day. More, of course, is better. And a pedometer is a great way to learn how many steps per day you're taking. This simple device, which just tracks movement, can be worn on the waist of your pants all day long, and you simply reference it and record how many steps that day you've taken. It is a great initial goal for new exercisers to wear a pedometer and track their daily step count, working towards that goal of 10,000 steps per day. Now, if they are a bit more active than this, they may want to work towards 16,000 steps per day on high end. And if they're an older adult, it's fine to start somewhere between 7,000 to 10,000. There are many advantages to pedometers. They're relatively inexpensive, small, and lightweight. If you're starting a walking club, this could be something you seek to invest as part of the registration, and that they can be picked up each time at the beginning of your group's walk. It allows people to get immediate feedback. You can simply look down at it and know how many steps you've taken. This is very motivating for many participants and encourages them to walk more or stand up and move around when they're not quite at their 10,000 steps for that day. It also avoids self-biased reporting when it comes to activity questionnaires or when they're logging in a diary. Instead of saying, oh, well, I did walk for 20 minutes. Instead, it's very accurate. I took 8,000 steps today. It makes it very simple and easy for people to track this progress. It's not a guesstimate of time, or they're using time when they were tying their shoes or stretching. It simply tells them the number of steps they did. Pedometers do have limitations. There is a lot of discrepancy among different models. So if you have a few people wearing different ones within your group, they may come out with a different number of steps. A main flaw is that they don't track frequency, intensity, or duration. It's simply number of step movements. So if you're getting your walks in 10-minute bouts versus a 40-minute walk, it doesn't know the difference. It also doesn't know if you're running or walking. It just senses motion. And of course, if you're doing any motion with the upper body or swimming, it will not be able to be used. So only tracks step locomotive movements. There are several smartphone applications that will help track your progress. Many people use Fitbits, which are a watch which will track your daily step and movements. You can set a Fitbit also with alerts. For each hour, for example, 250 steps. Your watch will buzz and encourage you to get up and move around. You can also set your watch for daily walk step goals, and your watch will remind you to get moving. Most of us have a My Health app on their iPhone or Android. This app does track pedometer steps per day, but needs to be turned on to be tracking. Garmin's and Polar are two forms of running watches that have inbuilt GPS units. These watches are great if you're moving beyond daily steps and looking to track speed and distance. It knows the difference between a walk, a jog, and a sprint. There are apps coming out daily that will track different routes via GPS from your phone. One popular one is called Walk My Dog, and it will tell you the distance that you traveled. This is great if you are using paths instead of roadways. Of course, if you're walking on the road, you can always come home and plot your route into Google, and it will tell you the distance that you walked. A good schedule for a 60-minute walking club session would be a 10-minute warm-up, get the group walking at a slower pace, but something that will increase their heart rate and body temperature. This could be a lap around the building, around the soccer field. Next, complete 5 minutes of range of motion dynamic stretches. This will help to continually warm up the participants and improve their flexibility. This could include marching on the spot with high knees, hamstring walks, drawing their heels up towards their sit bones, shoulder rolls, or torso rotations. After this, start your 20-minute brisk walk. Now, you may need to include a few different routes if you have a varied fitness levels, or have set out a predetermined destination where everyone will meet up depending on their walking speed. Try to encourage that people walk in pairs, safety in numbers. At this point, when you meet up, you begin your 15 minutes of anywhere, anytime exercises. Once these are completed, the final 10 minutes of the class should be for static stretches. These longer held stretches will help decrease heart rate, induce relaxation, and release any tension from the muscles worked during that session. There are several barriers to physical activity. In Canada, the number one barrier is time. No time to fit it in. Second barrier is social influences. Their friends or their family don't see that their walking is important. 3 is lack of energy. They have a busy life, work is stressful, they have kids to take care of possibly. They just don't have the energy at the end or the day to fit in a walk. Barrier number 4 is lack of willpower. They may have the time, but they just don't have the motivation. Barrier number 5 is fear of injury. Many who have a physical job worry that if they take on a new activity, this could affect them by injuring themselves and not being able to attend work or take care of their family. Number 6 is lack of skill. And we know now that walking is an activity that is safe and accessible for all, but is a barrier for other types of activities. And number 7 is very common, is lack of resources. Maybe they don't have a fitness facility where they can walk safely. Maybe they do not have the proper equipment, shoes, or a safe place to walk with sidewalks or lighting, or of course, weather. There are many ways to increase walking in your lifestyle and keep it exciting and motivating. You may want to try walking as part of an interval program. So even as part of the group, you do your anytime, anywhere exercises interspersed between bouts of walking. And this is a great step in increasing the intensity of the walks or possibly adding a walk jog. If the weather is inappropriate, water walking in the wintertime is an excellent alternative. The resistance of the water provides a very challenging deep water exercise. It is also beneficial for anyone with lower body injuries, hips, knees, or ankles, because of the flotation and buoyancy effects of water. You may want to try hiking instead of your normal walking route. Going off trail in the woods is a great way to keep it exciting. You may want to start planning destination walks. So for now, I'm walking to work, but then you start walking further to the grocery store or carrying those groceries home again. You may want to invest or look into speed walking. This is actually an Olympic event. Fundraising walks are a great way to keep yourself motivated over 6 or 8 weeks as you prepare to walk a charity walk. And lastly, you might be interested in active vacations, hiking the El Camino Trail or Kilimanjaro. These are great destination walks and keeps you active and motivated to do some training before these holidays. Ready, set, walk. Walking clubs are a great way to meet other active people, stay fit, and discover safe and new places to walk in your community. Some walking clubs are formal with fees, programs, and designated leaders. Others are informal or just a group of friends who agree to walk together. Some clubs walk outdoors, while other clubs walk indoors at malls, recreation, or wellness centers. It is important if you are becoming the active living facilitator and you're encouraging fitness walking to have these guidelines. Encourage your participants to have their head, shoulders, and chest lifted. Keep their focus straight ahead and their back straight. Having their arms and move naturally at the sides of their body with their elbows bent to approximately 90 degrees. Make sure they are not holding any sort of hand weights and that the hands themselves are relaxed. Make sure that they are engaging their abdominals, keeping a neutral spine and stable upright position, and that the movement is happening from the hips, legs, and feet. Make sure their strides are natural, not too long or too short, and that they're landing on the heel and then rolling smoothly through to the toes. Think about planting the heel and then pushing off or away from you as you come forward. It's also important as the active living facilitator leader to know the signs of overexertion. This can include dizziness, a feeling of faint or lightheadedness, nausea, shortness of breath, increased thirst, and vomiting. Making sure that your participants are walking at a pace that does provide cardiovascular results, but one that is safe for them, and letting them know to stop and take rest whenever they need to and to listen to their bodies. As part of this Active Living Facilitator webinar, there are 3 handouts provided by InMotion. The first is a small one called the Walking, the Activity of a Lifetime. It's the photo here at the bottom of the screen. This handout has information about number of steps per day, the benefits of walking, and some basic strengthening and stretching exercises. If you're keen on leading a walking group, I would recommend you looking at the Walking Clubs brochure, also by In Motion. This leads all the steps you'll need to start up your walking program, as well as how to track participants' distance and time goals. It also includes a PAR-Q, as well as a completion certificate for which you can photocopy for your participants. The third In Motion handout is called For Kids in Motion, and is a great handout, again, if you're working with moms and tots or moms and babies, as it provides relevant information about how to encourage physical activity with those younger age children. The Anywhere, Anytime exercise program was created by the Manitoba Fitness Council as safe, body-weighted resistance training exercises that you can include with your walking club program. After this presentation is completed, please watch the attached videos for the assigned exercises. It is important that if you want to include more exercises than in this booklet, you may want to take further education with the Manitoba Fitness Council. And for further information about these programs, visit www.manitobafitnesscouncil.ca. After you have reviewed the Anytime, Anywhere exercises, or you've been practicing them for a while, you may want to learn some ways to create variations to the intensity of these body-weighted exercises. First, you can change the range of motion. Stand up right now and just try a quarter depth squat, almost like a pulse. You only go a little down and come back up. Next, try doing the squat all the way down to 90 degrees. This is seen as safe, full range of motion. Each are challenging in themselves, and this can be applied to any of the exercises in the booklet. Next, you can move against or with gravity. Take, for example, the wall push-up. Gravity is now only pushing on the top of your head versus a push-up on the floor, where gravitational forces are pushing against the entire length of your body. Next, you can vary the speed of an exercise. Again, I suggest you stand up and try 5 squats on what I consider a single count tempo. So you go down and up, down and up. And then now repeat those 5 squats again, but counting to 4 as you lower, going down for 4, 3, 2, 1, and come up. 4, 3, 2, 1. By slowing down each exercise, you greatly increase the intensity. Next, you can change the complexity of an exercise, and this is done by adding coordination. A good example of changing the complexity is with stationary lunges. So you change your stationary or on-the-spot lunges to walking lunges. As soon as you propel yourself forward, this challenges your core, your strength, and your stability throughout your lower body. For added intensity, you can always decrease rest time. For example, if you have set 2 sets of 10 repetitions of each of the exercises in the booklet, and you're allowing yourself 1 minute to move between these exercises, repeat it, but now only allow yourself 30 seconds of rest between each exercise. You'll notice that with the decrease in rest time, there is an added intensity to every exercise. And then the most commonly thought of way to increase intensity with strength training is to, of course, add external resistance with dumbbells, resistance bands, or the like. Now, this is beyond the Active Living Facilitator webinar. And if you are interested in how to use weights as part of your resistance training program, then I would suggest you sign up for the resistance training program offered by the Manitoba Fitness Council. As an active living facilitator leader, you may have to demonstrate the active anytime exercises. So it is important when you're demonstrating to your class that you show it with good technique. And if you know your group well, you may be demonstrating a modified version of the exercise. If a participant is having trouble with the whole exercise, it may be beneficial to break it down into segments, possibly having them hold a wall or a chair for support. Use both body language and verbal cues when demonstrating the exercise. Visual learners like to see what you're doing, and auditory learners like to hear the description. Make sure that your participants can see your demonstration well and that you are facing the class as much as possible. Leading a fitness group may be something new, and it's important to think about your verbal cues and how you address your class. If you're teaching outside, it's important to speak clearly so that everyone can hear you. You should avoid using negative words like "don't do that." Instead, switch it to the positive. Try using your arms like this. You want to keep your instructions simple. Again, outside noises may interrupt long descriptions. Give instructions that help your client visualize what is happening. And even better, demonstrate while giving those instructions. Lastly, it's important that you make them aware of their own bodies, letting them sense if they need to stop, drink water, or reduce the number of repetitions. When leading your group, make sure that you're watching your participants closely, looking at their technique. If participants are doing an activity incorrectly, try modeling the activity again or demonstrating it again. It may also help to use different words. Maybe give them a visual that they can think of, like balancing books on the top of their head while they are doing their lunges to encourage them to keep their back straight. Watch participants for any signs of confusion or pain performing any of the exercises. Many will not verbally say when something is uncomfortable, but in general, you can see it across their face. So watching facial expressions during your class is very important. Earlier, we discussed the Canadian guidelines for physical activity. These guidelines stated that we should be active 150 minutes per week. Time is the most commonly listed barrier to physical activity. It is important to remind family, friends, and participants that the accumulation of 150 minutes per week can be achieved in bouts of 10 minutes. This could be a walk at lunch, a stretch break from your computer work, or an after-dinner stroll. The health benefits from moving from a sedentary lifestyle to one of even lower intensity physical activity has many benefits and should be encouraged. Active transportation is using your own power to get from one place to another. This could include walking, biking, skateboarding, inline skating or rollerblading, jogging, running, non-mechanized wheelchairing, snowshoeing, or cross-country skiing. Active transportation benefits our health, our society, our transportation system, our environment, our economy. This is because active transportation gives us the opportunity to be physically active on a regular basis. It's accessible to Canadians and increases social exchanges, reduces road congestion, contributes to reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and saves money on gas and parking. Can I show exercise shows, DVDs, or YouTube videos? No, this is not a good idea because you cannot verify the qualifications of the instructor, that the exercises are actually intended for your participants. There are also no resources that go along with these videos about the exercises. And in most cases, the videos do not give modifications. Also, videos are usually copyrighted and only for personal use. It's important that we keep our programs authentic, and the reason that people attend your classes is because they like the way you deliver them. So if there's a chance that you are sick or unable to attend, make sure you have an additional instructor who could fill in for you, or simply have a method of being able to let your students know that that particular class that week is canceled. There are many safety issues you may want to consider with your group. First, you want to think about risk management. Think about the route, any potential risks on that route, traffic, sidewalks, maybe snow and ice, and make sure you've noted them to make sure the route is as safe as possible. Next, you want to assess your participants. Make sure each has completed a PAR-Q Plus within the year, and if any health changes have occurred, then you've asked for an updated PAR-Q and clearance to be active. You might also need to be carrying a first aid kit, a cell phone, or carry a list of emergency contact numbers. Ensure also that if your club is doing a special walking event, that you've ensured that you are covered in liability insurance for these types of events. As an active living facilitator, you want to promote healthy, active life. So it's important to think about injury prevention. Make sure you're teaching the exercises from our Anytime, Anywhere exercise booklet with good form and in a safe environment. Make sure you inform your participants that they feel uncomfortable, that they should stop and listen to their body. Make sure they are not overdoing it and look for signs of exertion, sweating, increased breath rate. Make sure they're not overdoing it. Also be mindful of yourself as well as your participants not to overtrain, allowing them and encouraging them to take rest when they need. And always keep your eyes on your participants. You can learn a lot by the facial expressions they are making and take appropriate action when need be. It's also important to think about dressing for safety. So this could mean wearing reflective clothing, of course, walking against traffic, using a designated sidewalk or pathway whenever it is available, bringing water as well as a sugary snack, possibly for anyone who has diabetes, in your pocket. Always have a charged cell phone. And then when you're thinking about winter and or summer walking, making sure to encourage them to dress in layers if it's the winter, toque, scarf, and mittens for those end of limbs that get chilly, comfortable walking winter boots, ones that will keep the feet dry and warm, and possible sunglasses might be needed even in the winter. Obviously, for the summer, you'll want to wear sun protection, a large hat, sunglasses again, or something to protect the neck and face. Again, you're going to want to encourage them to wear comfortable shoes, breathable fabrics, long, loose layers that may also protect the body against mosquitoes. Despite your best efforts to create a safe walk, incidents do occur. If there is an incident or accident during a lead walk, make sure to keep the following. Ensure adequate space. Make sure the floor is clear of potential hazards. Know where their phone is and the emergency numbers. Encourage water breaks. Watch for signs and symptoms of distress. That could be increased breathing rate, increased perspiration or sweating, increased red skin tone, possible stopping or intermittent activity. Always keep that emergency contact information on you, even on an outdoor walk. Phone numbers of people you can call for your participants. Find out if there is a facility with an AED and learn how to use it. Taking this even a step further, you may want to complete your first aid and CPR certification. This is required for Manitoba Fitness Council for higher level courses. It is not required for the ELF Active Living Facilitator webinar you are taking, but it is extremely beneficial and will make you feel more confident as a fitness leader in your community. The new food guide was released in January 2019. This new food guide emphasizes fruits and veggies, whole grains, proteins, and instead of eating from our 4 original food groups, Canada are now encouraged to follow these guidelines on what to eat regularly, what to avoid, and the importance of cooking and preparing meals at home. The new food guide is no longer a rainbow of 4 food categories. Instead, it is now depicted as a dinner plate, with half the plate being encouraged to be fruits and vegetables, 1/4 of the plate to be nutritious proteins, which includes several lentils and vegetarian options, and the last quarter is whole grains. The new food guide also suggests water to be the drink of choice. There are several ways the food guide has changed. Portion sizes are no longer defined. Instead, it's about how to build your plate. Be mindful of eating habits, taking time to eat, noticing when you're hungry and full, and trying to cook more meals at home. The new food guide encourages you to plan what you eat, involving others in your planning and meal preparations. Picking foods that you enjoy, as well as thinking about cultural and traditions as part of healthy eating. It also suggests that you look at food labels and be aware of food marketing that influences your choices. The new food guide also talks about healthier options when eating out and how to avoid highly processed foods. For further information about the new food guide, visit food-guide.canada.ca. Walking is the most popular form of physical activity for Canadians. It can be done anywhere, at any age, and at little cost. There are several options for where you can run a walking program. Consider whether your program will be led by a community volunteer like yourself, or an accredited fitness leader, or maybe more self-guided. If you choose the self-guided route, be adventurous, explanatory, and interpretive in nature, maybe bird walks or dog walks. You may have more of a formal walking program in which participants register for a number of weeks for fitness walking, stroller walking, hiking, snowshoeing, Nordic walking, or even a learn to run walk program could all be established. You might have an indoor walking club due to the weather, lightning, slippery winter roads. So you again can develop a registered form, a number of weeks, a park queue, and then book a community facility for your walk to take place. Your club may then have fees to cover any sort of facility costs. Alternatively, you may want an outdoor walking club. If the climate and the weather permit, people love to be outdoors. If this is your option, you may want to have a variety of routes, short and long, to accommodate different fitness levels of your club members. Remember to think about safety and access, as well as scenery. Consider services such as parking, benches, toilets, possible phones. If it's an outdoor club, you may need to think about giving your clients maps of amenities and distances, or even the surfaces. You can plan your walks to the detail. Trailhead name, the starting point, a finish time and location. Or encourage participants to wear comfortable clothing for the weather, and always develop a contingency plan. What happens if it's raining that day or snowing? Do you have an indoor or alternative options? Blow your own horn advertising. Find out what works in your community. Who can you target? Posters and flyers at community bulletin boards or public spaces like the library. Maybe you have table cards that you can put in a coffee shop. Look to use the radio, television, or possible newspaper advertisements. Maybe join it with a separate club, maybe a charitable function, organization, or club. Get a few people involved and then use word of mouth after that. Maybe you're more comfortable with technology, Twitter, Facebook, social media. After you create your flyer, make sure it includes the list of the benefits of walking, and have an invitation. Make sure it includes your contact phone number and or email, and simply say where the meeting might be held and to encourage a friend. Make sure it feels like a safe place to meet. Distribute your flyers across local businesses, apartment complexes, local bulletin boards, and include information in your community newsletters. Are there common walking paths in your area? Try to advertise adjacent to these locations. Advertise the meeting on a local website that you have access to, or promote it through another channel. Try to get the word out throughout your community. These are some things you should consider when you're planning a walking program. Who can you partner with? Local physiotherapy, a senior center, a not-for-profit. All of these organizations may have participants interested in doing formal walking. Will your group be formal though? Will you have set day and time per week that is set aside to meet as a group? Or will you be more informal, providing information about number of steps per week or number of steps per day? Maybe it's an overall time of 150 minutes per week. Will your club be indoors or outdoors? Or maybe a combination? What happens if you have a summertime walking group that wants to continue? How will you track their progress? Will it be virtual logins of distances or times? Will it be at each session a recording of how far they've gone? And will there be a reward for the longest walk? Do you need liability insurance? You would under Manitoba Fitness Council if you're providing greater strength or cardiovascular training than is in this course. If this interests you, you can go on and take your exercise theory and the appropriate specialty field. For further information, go to www.manitobafitnesscouncil.ca. Now that you may have got a program started, it is always important to have your program evaluated. Evaluating programs help you see if you've done what you've hoped to do and can help you plan for future. Evaluations include identifying what information you need, how and when to get this information. So make sure you plan out an evaluation form, collect information, understand your findings, and use and share these findings. By asking your participants at the end of a term or session about the date and time, the distance of the walks, the number of minutes, any handouts you gave, will give you great insight about where your program will go in the next term. And you'll continually build a stronger program. As a reminder, the Active Living Facilitator is a program that has encouraged more Manitobans to become physically active and to improve overall health and well-being. The objective of this course is to recognize the knowledge of the MFC Active Living Facilitator so that they may effectively work at the community level within their scope of practice in the province of Manitoba. Your scope of practice is the following 5. 1. Guide a group by providing safe and appropriate anywhere, anytime exercises or a basic walking program. 2. Active living sessions based on MFC standards and guidelines. 3. Guide participants who are apparently healthy according to the PAR-Q. 4. Promote active living and moving more often every day. 5. Promote the Canadian Food Guide to Healthy Eating. As an active living facilitator is sanctioned by the MFC to guide active living activities in the following areas: indoors or outdoors, walking, basic stretching and range of motion, the anywhere, anytime exercises, and basic body weight strengthening and endurance. Once recognized as an active living facilitator, they are not sanctioned by the MFC to teach the following classes. This does require additional certification. Any equipment to music-based classes, high or low impact aerobics, muscle strengthening or conditioning classes, sit to get fit, group cycle, cardio kickboxing or its variations, shallow or deep water aquasize, arthritis club, pre-postnatal, cardiac rehab, older adult, Pilates, or yoga. It is important that you stay within your scope of practice when offering these programs in your community.